It was the coldest night of the year in Chicago. A 12-year-old homeless boy heard a faint cry behind a Billionaire's gates. Inside, a little girl in thin pajamas was freezing to death. He could have walked away and lived. But he didn't. He climbed the 10-foot fence to save a stranger, risking everything he had. Months later, he learned the truth. That night wasn't fate's cruelty. It was someone's plan. Hit that subscribe button right now because tomorrow I've got another miracle to share with you. The wind howled through the alleyways of Chicago like a wounded animal. February 14th. Most people saw it as a day for love and warmth, but for 12-year-old Marcus Williams, it was just another night of survival. The weather report had been blaring warnings all day, 12 degrees below 0 Celsius, feeling like -20 with the wind chill. The coldest night of the year. Shelters were packed. The streets were emptying fast. Marcus pulled his thin blue jacket tighter around his small frame. It was the last gift his mother had bought him before she died 2 years ago. The fabric was worn, the zipper broken, but he couldn't let it go. It was all he had left of her. He'd been living on the streets for 2 years now. Ever since he ran away from the Hendricks foster home. They'd taken him in after his mother, Sarah Williams, lost her battle with cancer. But they didn't want a son. They wanted a paycheck from the state and a live-in servant. Marcus remembered the cold basement where they locked him when he misbehaved. He remembered eating scraps after they'd finished their meals. He remembered Mr. Hendricks' belt and Mrs. Hendricks' cold eyes. So he ran, and he never looked back. Now, at 12, Marcus knew how to survive. He knew which restaurants threw out food at closing time. He knew which subway stations stayed warm longest. He knew how to make himself invisible when the police drove by. But tonight was different. Tonight was dangerous. Marcus clutched his ragged blanket, moldy, damp, but still better than nothing. His fingers were already numb. He needed to find shelter soon. As he walked, his mother's last words echoed in his mind. She'd been so weak then, lying in that hospital bed, her hand barely able to squeeze his. "Marcus, baby," she'd whispered. "Life is going to take everything from you. But don't ever let it take your heart. Kindness is the one thing no one can steal from you." He hadn't understood it then. He wasn't sure he understood it now. But he'd held on to those words like a lifeline. Marcus turned down a street he didn't usually take. The houses here were different, massive, 3 stories tall with iron gates and security cameras. This was Lakeshore Drive, where Chicago's wealthiest lived along the shore of Lake Michigan. He didn't belong here. He knew that. But the subway entrance he'd been heading for was 2 miles away, and his legs were getting heavy. Then he heard it. A sound that made him stop in his tracks. Crying. Not the loud, angry crying of a tantrum, but the weak, desperate sobbing of someone in trouble. Marcus looked around, trying to find the source. The wind was making it hard to hear. But then he saw her, through the iron bars of a 10-foot gate, sitting on the front steps of a 3-story mansion, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. She wore pink pajamas with Princess Elsa on them, thin, meant for indoor warmth, not a Chicago winter. Her feet were bare. Her long brown hair, tied in a ponytail, was covered in snow. She was shaking violently, arms wrapped around her knees, crying into them. Marcus's first instinct was to walk away. Rich people had alarms, security, police on speed dial. A homeless kid like him near a mansion, that was asking for trouble. But the girl looked up and their eyes met. Her face was bright red from the cold. Her lips were turning blue. Tears had frozen on her cheeks. She was dying. Marcus knew what hypothermia looked like. He'd seen it before on the streets. She wouldn't last another hour. "Hey," Marcus called out softly, approaching the gate. "You okay?" The little girl jumped, startled. She stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. Who are you?" "I'm Marcus. Why are you outside?" The girl's bottom lip trembled. "I'm Lily Hartwell. I just wanted to see the snow falling. The door locked behind me. I don't know the code to get back in." "Where's your family?" "Daddy's away. On a business trip. He won't be back until morning." Fresh tears rolled down her face. "I'm so cold, I'm so scared." Marcus looked at the house. Every window was dark. No lights, no movement. He looked at his watch, a broken thing he'd found in a dumpster, but it still told time. 10:30 p.m. Dawn was 8 hours away. The little girl wouldn't survive 8 minutes in this cold, let alone 8 hours. Marcus gripped the iron bars of the gate. He could walk away. He could go find his subway station and huddle there until morning. This wasn't his problem. This wasn't his family. Getting involved would only bring trouble. But he looked at Lily's face again, saw the hope flickering in her eyes as she looked at him. Don't ever let it take your heart. Marcus made his decision. Hold on, Lily. I'm coming to help you. The gate was 10 feet tall, iron bars with pointed tops. Marcus wasn't a big kid. Malnutrition had kept him small and thin. But he was good at climbing. You learned that fast when you lived on the streets. He grabbed the bars and started pulling himself up. His hands were already numb from the cold, making it hard to grip. The metal was slick with ice. He slipped twice, scraping his knees bloody against the bars, but he kept going. When he reached the top, he carefully maneuvered over the pointed tips and dropped down on the other side. Pain shot through his ankles as he landed, but he ignored it. Lily was staring at him with a mixture of awe and hope. Marcus ran to her. Up close, she looked even worse. Her skin was pale, almost gray. She'd stopped shivering, a bad sign. It meant her body was shutting down. Without a word, Marcus took off his jacket. The cold hit him immediately, like 1,000 knives. But he wrapped it around Lily's shoulders. But you'll be cold, Lily whispered. I'm used to it. You're not. Put your arms in. He helped her into the jacket, then wrapped his blanket around both of them as best he could. He pulled her close, trying to share what little body heat he had left. We can't stay here in the open, Marcus said. Come on. He led her to the corner of the porch, where a brick wall blocked some of the wind. He sat down with his back against the wall and pulled Lily onto his lap, wrapping her completely in the jacket and blanket. Listen to me, Lily, Marcus said, his teeth already chattering. You can't fall asleep. If you sleep you won't wake up. You have to stay awake. Talk to me, okay? Lily nodded weakly. I'm tired. I know, but you have to fight it. Tell me something. Tell me about your favorite thing. Disney World, Lily said, her voice barely audible. Daddy took me last year. We saw Mickey Mouse and we went to Elsa's castle. That sounds nice. What else? The fireworks. They were so pretty. All the colors in the sky. Her eyes started to close. Lily. Marcus shook her gently. Stay with me. What's your favorite color? Purple. Why purple? Because Mommy loved purple. Before the car accident. Marcus felt his own eyes burning with tears. This little girl had lost her mother too. She understood that pain. My mom's gone too, Marcus said softly. Cancer. 2 years ago. Lily looked up at him, her eyes finding a moment of clarity. Does it stop hurting? Marcus thought about lying, but he couldn't. No, but you learn to carry it. You learn to remember the good parts. What good parts do you remember? The beach. She took me to Santa Monica once before she got sick. We watched the sunset and ate strawberry ice cream. She told me the ocean was magic, that it could wash away sadness if you let it. Did it work? A little. For that day, yeah. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus started talking again. Because silence meant sleep, and sleep meant death. Tell me about your dad. He works a lot, building computers or something. He's really smart, but he's always sad now. Since Mommy died. I bet he loves you a lot. He does. He calls me his little star. Lily's voice was getting weaker. Marcus, I'm really cold. I know, kiddo. I know, but you're doing great. Just keep talking to me. Hours passed. Marcus told Lily about the places he'd been on the streets, the dogs he'd befriended, the stars he watched on clear nights. Lily told him about her school, her teacher Mrs. Patterson, her best friend Emma. But as time went on, both of their voices grew quieter. Marcus's whole body was numb now. He couldn't feel his fingers or toes. His lips were cracked and bleeding. Every breath felt like ice in his lungs. But he kept his arms wrapped around Lily. He kept rubbing her back, trying to generate warmth. He kept whispering to her, stay awake, stay with me, don't give up. Around 2 a.m., Marcus's vision started to blur. His body stopped shivering. That was bad. He knew that was bad, but he couldn't remember why. Lily was quiet now, her small body limp against his chest. He could barely feel her breathing. Mom, Marcus whispered to the sky. Did I do okay? Did I keep my heart? He thought he heard an answer in the wind, a soft voice saying, you did good, baby. I'm proud of you. Marcus's eyes closed. He couldn't open them again, but his arms stayed locked around Lily, holding her, protecting her, even as his own life slipped away. His last conscious thought was a simple one. At least she'll live. At least I did something good. Then everything went dark. Richard Hartwell's Mercedes pulled into his driveway at exactly 5:47 a.m. He was exhausted. The emergency board meeting in San Francisco had gone until midnight, and he'd caught the first flight back to Chicago at 4 a.m. All he wanted was to check on Lily and maybe sleep for a few hours. But as his headlights swept across the front yard, he saw something that made his blood turn to ice. 2 children were huddled in the corner of his porch. Richard was out of the car before the engine fully stopped. His dress shoes slipped on the icy driveway as he ran toward the house. Lily. His daughter was wrapped in an oversized jacket, held in the arms of a boy Richard had never seen before. The boy's lips were blue-purple. His skin was gray. He wasn't moving, but Lily's eyes fluttered open. "Daddy?" Her voice was so weak, so small. "Daddy, you came back." Richard's hands were shaking as he reached for his daughter. Her skin was cold as ice, but she was breathing. She was alive. He looked at the boy. For a terrifying moment he thought the child was dead. Then he saw the faintest rise and fall of his chest. "Who is this?" Richard demanded, though he wasn't sure who he was asking. "What happened?" The boy's eyes opened slowly. They were brown, deep and tired, but filled with something Richard couldn't quite name. Relief maybe, or peace. "She's okay," the boy whispered, his voice like paper rustling. "I kept her warm. She's okay." Then his eyes rolled back, and he went limp. Richard's military training from his youth kicked in. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. "This is Richard Hartwell, 847 Lakeshore Drive. I need 2 ambulances immediately. 2 children with severe hypothermia. Hurry." He took off his own coat and wrapped it around both children, then started doing what he could to warm them, rubbing their hands, their feet, trying to get blood flowing. "Lily baby, stay with me. Talk to Daddy." "The boy," Lily mumbled. "His name is Marcus. He saved me, Daddy. The door locked and I couldn't get in and I was so cold and he climbed over the gate and gave me his jacket and Shess, it's okay. It's okay, baby. Help is coming." The ambulances arrived 6 minutes later. Paramedics swarmed the scene, their faces grim as they assessed the children. "The girl is stage 2 hypothermia," one paramedic said. "She's lucky. Another hour and..." "The boy is stage 3, another paramedic interrupted. "Critical. We need to move now." They were loaded into separate ambulances. Richard rode with Lily, holding her small hand as the paramedics worked on warming her with heated blankets and IV fluids. "Mr. Hartwell," one of the paramedics said quietly. "That boy, he used his own body as a shield for your daughter. He gave her his only jacket. He kept her alive by giving her every bit of warmth he had. He saved her life, but he nearly killed himself doing it." Richard felt tears streaming down his face. "Who is he? Where did he come from?" "We'll figure that out. Right now we just need to save him." At Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Lily was rushed to one treatment room while Marcus was taken to another. Richard paced in the hallway, torn between staying with his daughter and checking on the boy who'd saved her. Dr. Sarah Chen, the attending physician, found him after 20 minutes. "Mr. Hartwell, your daughter is stable. She's going to be fine. We've got her body temperature rising steadily. No frostbite. She was incredibly lucky. And the boy..." Dr. Chen's expression darkened. "He's critical. Severe hypothermia. Signs of frostbite on his fingers and toes, possible pneumonia. He was outside much longer than your daughter, and with far less protection. His body took the brunt of the cold. The next 24 hours will tell us if he's going to make it. Can I see him?" "Not yet, but Mr. Hartwell, I need to tell you something. This boy has signs of long-term malnutrition, old bruises, and scars consistent with abuse. When we ran his prints for identification, nothing came up. No missing persons report, no identity in the system. Whoever he is, he's been invisible." Richard felt something crack inside his chest. This boy, this brave, selfless boy, had been living on the streets, alone, suffering, and still he'd chosen to save a stranger. "I want the best care for him," Richard said firmly. "Whatever he needs. I don't care about the cost." "Of course, 2 police officers were waiting in the hallway when Dr. Chen left. Detective Michael Miller and Officer Sarah Torres. "Mr. Hartwell, we need to ask you some questions about what happened," Detective Miller said. Richard explained everything he knew, which wasn't much. When he finished, Detective Miller nodded thoughtfully. "We'll need to review your security footage. This could be a case of attempted break-in. Or, that boy saved my daughter's life." Richard cut him off, his voice steel. "He's not a criminal, he's a hero. We're not making assumptions, Mr. Hartwell, we're just gathering facts. Can we access your security system?" Back at the house, Richard's hands shook as he pulled up the security footage on his computer. But what they found made everyone in the room go silent. The camera pointed at the front gate, the one that should have captured Marcus climbing over, had been manually adjusted. It was pointed at the street instead of the yard. The camera in the front yard, the one that should have captured everything that happened on the porch, showed only static. The timestamp showed it had failed at 9:15 p.m., right around when Lily would have gone outside. The camera at the back door, where Lily had been locked out, was also malfunctioning. "This is too much coincidence," Officer Torres said. "Mr. Hartwell, who has access to your security system?" Richard felt cold spread through his chest. "Only me, and my housekeeper, Martha Lonsdale." Detective Miller and Officer Torres exchanged glances. "We'll need to speak with her," Miller said. "Where is she?" "She's off today. Lives in an apartment downtown, but she has a key to the house. She's been with my family for 12 years, since before my wife died." "Mr. Hartwell," Officer Torres said gently, "I need you to consider the possibility that what happened to your daughter last night wasn't an accident." Richard wanted to deny it. Martha had been like family. She'd taken care of Lily since Elizabeth's death 3 years ago. She'd been a constant presence, reliable, trustworthy. But the evidence was right there on the screen. Someone had tampered with the cameras. Someone had made sure there would be no record of what happened to Lily. "I'll call her in," Richard said quietly. "We'll get to the bottom of this." But first, he needed to see his daughter. Lily was awake when Richard entered her room. She looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, but her eyes were clear. "Daddy." She reached for him, and he gathered her into his arms, careful of the IV lines. "My brave girl, you're okay. You're going to be okay. Is Marcus okay? Please tell me Marcus is okay." Richard pulled back to look at his daughter. He's very sick, sweetie, but the doctors are taking care of him. He saved me, Daddy. He gave me his jacket even though he was already cold. He held me all night and told me stories so I wouldn't fall asleep. He said if I fell asleep, I wouldn't wake up." Tears rolled down Lily's cheeks. "He's a hero, Daddy. You have to save him." "Please, I will, baby. I promise, I'm going to do everything I can." Richard stayed with Lily until she fell into a natural sleep. Then he walked down the hall to the ICU where Marcus was being treated. Through the window he could see the boy lying motionless in the bed, surrounded by machines and monitors. He looked even smaller than he had on the porch, like a ghost. A nurse was checking his vitals. Richard tapped on the window, and she came out to speak with him. "How is he?" "Hanging in there. He's young and believe it or not, his body is used to harsh conditions. That might actually help him survive this. His temperature is coming up slowly. We're watching for cardiac arrhythmia and checking for tissue damage. He's not out of the woods, but there's hope. Can I go in?" "Just for a moment, and please don't touch him. We need to keep him as still as possible while his body recovers." Richard nodded and entered the room. He stood beside the bed, looking down at this boy who'd saved his daughter's life. Marcus's face was peaceful in sleep. His dark hair was messy against the white pillow. His hands, wrapped in special warming bandages, lay still at his sides. "I don't know if you can hear me," Richard said softly, "but thank you for saving Lily. You're the bravest person I've ever met. You gave everything to save someone you didn't even know. That's extraordinary." He wiped his eyes and continued, "When you wake up, and you will wake up, I'm going to make sure you never have to live on the streets again. I'm going to give you the life you deserve. I promise you that." Marcus didn't respond, but Richard thought maybe he saw the boy's fingers twitch slightly. It was enough. Martha Lonsdale arrived at the Hartwell residence at 2 p.m. that afternoon. She was a woman in her mid-50s, with graying brown hair pulled back in a tight bun and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She'd been Richard's housekeeper for 12 years, hired shortly after he married Elizabeth. When Elizabeth died 3 years ago, Martha had become even more indispensable, helping Richard manage the household and care for Lily. Detective Miller and Officer Torres were waiting in the living room with Richard when she arrived. "Mr. Hartwell," Martha's face showed concern. "I got your message that it was urgent. Is everything all right? Is Lily okay?" "Sit down, Martha." Richard's voice was cold in a way she'd never heard before. Martha sat, her hands folding primly in her lap. "What's this about?" Detective Miller leaned forward. "Miss Lonsdale, can you tell us where you were last night between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m.? Martha blinked. "I was here, in my quarters on the first floor." "Why? What happened?" "Lily was locked outside in sub-zero temperatures for approximately 7 hours last night." The color drained from Martha's face. "What? Is she's alive?" Richard said flatly. "Thanks to a homeless boy who risked his life to save her." I don't understand. How did she get outside?" Officer Torres pulled out a tablet showing images of the security footage. "Miss Lonsdale, you're listed as having administrative access to the home security system. Can you explain why multiple cameras were malfunctioning or had been manually adjusted last night?" Martha stared at the screen. Richard watched her face carefully. He'd known this woman for over a decade. He'd trusted her with his home, his daughter, his life. But right now he saw something he'd never seen before. Fear. "I checked the system yesterday afternoon. Everything was working fine. The cold must have affected the electronics. These things happen with extreme weather." "That's an interesting theory," Detective Miller said. "Except our tech specialist examined the system this morning. The cameras didn't malfunction, they were manually disabled from an account with administrative access." "Your account, Miss Lonsdale? That's impossible. I didn't touch the cameras last night." "Why would I? That's what we'd like to know." Richard stood up. "Martha, I asked you specifically to lock all doors at 8 p.m. before you went to bed. The back door was found unlocked. Lily said she went out to look at the stars and the door locked behind her. But the security log shows that door was never locked in the first place." Martha's hands began to shake. "I thought I locked it. I must have forgotten. With Mr. Hartwell away, I was trying to do everything myself and stop lying." Everyone turned to look at Richard. His face was hard as stone. "I know you, Martha. In 12 years you've never forgotten a single detail. You run this house like a military operation. You don't forget to lock doors. You don't accidentally break 3 separate security cameras on the coldest night of the year." Martha stood abruptly. "Are you accusing me of trying to hurt Lily? That child is like my own granddaughter. I would never." "Then explain the evidence," Detective Miller interrupted. "Because right now it all points to you deliberately creating a situation where Lily would be locked outside in fatal conditions." The room fell silent. Martha looked around at the 3 faces watching her, and Richard saw something break behind her eyes. "I want a lawyer," she said quietly. "That's your right." Officer Torres stood. "Miss Lonsdale, you're not under arrest at this time, but we strongly suggest you don't leave the city. We'll be in touch." After the police left with Martha, Richard sat alone in his study, his head in his hands. His phone rang. It was Dr. Chen from the hospital. "Mr. Hartwell, I wanted to update you. Marcus is awake." Richard was in his car before she finished the sentence. When Richard entered Marcus's hospital room, the boy was sitting up slightly, looking out the window. He turned as Richard approached, and for a moment they just looked at each other. "Hi," Marcus said finally. His voice was hoarse but clear. "Hi yourself." Richard pulled up a chair beside the bed. "How are you feeling?" "Warm." "That's weird, I haven't been warm in a long time. The doctors say you're going to be okay. No permanent damage. You're very lucky." Marcus looked down at his bandaged hands. "Lily, she's fine. Perfect. Because of you." "Good." Marcus smiled slightly. "That's good." Richard felt emotion welling up in his throat. "Why did you do it? You didn't know her. You didn't know me. You could have died." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke his voice was soft but steady. "My mom, before she died, she told me something. She said life would take everything from me, but I should never let it take my heart. Never let it take my kindness." He looked up at Richard. "I saw that little girl crying in the cold. I couldn't just walk away. I couldn't let her die. Even if it meant dying yourself. Marcus shrugged. I guess. I don't know, I just knew I had to try. Richard reached out and took one of Marcus's bandaged hands gently in his own. Your mother raised an extraordinary son. Tears filled Marcus's eyes. She tried. She did her best with what she had. Tell me about her. And Marcus did. He told Richard about Sarah Williams, about her battle with cancer, about the good days and the bad days. He told him about the beach trip and the strawberry ice cream. He told him about her final words. Then Richard asked, what happened after she died? Marcus's face darkened. He told Richard about the foster home, about the Hendricks, about running away. He told him about the streets, the cold nights, the hunger, the fear. He told him everything. When he finished, Richard was crying openly. You should never have had to live like that. No child should. I'm so sorry. Marcus looked confused. Why are you sorry? You didn't do anything. I'm sorry that the world failed you, that the system failed you, that you had to suffer so much. It's okay, it made me strong. You shouldn't have to be that strong. Not at 12 years old. Richard stood up and moved to the window, composing himself. When he turned back, his face was determined. Marcus, I want to ask you something, and I want you to think about it carefully before you answer. Okay, I want to adopt you. Marcus stared at him blankly. What? I want you to be part of my family. I want to give you a home, an education, a future, everything you should have had all along. I don't understand. Why would you do that? Richard sat back down. Because you saved my daughter's life. Because you deserve better than what you've been given. And because, he paused, searching for the right words, because I can see that you're exactly the kind of person I want Lily to learn from. You're brave, selfless, and kind. Those are rare qualities, Marcus. I don't want to lose them. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. I'm not worth all that. I'm just a street kid. I don't know how to live in a house like yours. I'd just mess everything up. You wouldn't. And even if you did, we'd figure it out together. That's what families do. But I'm nobody. Why would you want me? Richard leaned forward, his voice intense. You're not nobody, Marcus. You're the boy who gave his last bit of warmth to save a stranger. You're the boy who chose compassion over survival. You're somebody, Marcus. You've always been somebody. The world just forgot to notice. Marcus broke down then, sobbing like he hadn't since his mother died. Richard moved to the bed and carefully wrapped his arms around the boy, letting him cry it out. It's okay, Richard murmured. It's okay to cry. It's okay to hurt. But you're not alone anymore. I promise you, you're not alone. When Marcus finally calmed down, he pulled back and looked at Richard with red, swollen eyes. Are you sure? Are you really sure you want me? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then yes, I want a family. I want a home. Fresh tears rolled down his face. I really, really want to stay. Richard smiled through his own tears. Then welcome home, son. 2 weeks later, Marcus was officially discharged from the hospital. All the legal paperwork had been rushed through. When you're a billionaire with connections, things move fast. Marcus Williams became Marcus Hartwell. Richard took him home in the same Mercedes that had arrived at Frozen Morning. As they pulled up to the mansion, Marcus pressed his face to the window. I climbed over that gate, he said quietly. It seemed huge then. It is huge, but you did it anyway. They walked through the front door together. The house was warm, bright, filled with the smell of something delicious cooking. Lily came running down the stairs, squealing with joy. Marcus, you're home. You're really home. She threw her arms around him, nearly knocking him over. Marcus hugged her back, laughing. Hey Lily, how are you? I'm good. I'm so good. Daddy said you're my brother now. Is that true? Are you really my brother? Marcus looked at Richard, who nodded with a smile. Yeah, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. I guess I am. This is the best day ever. Lily grabbed his hand. Come on, I'll show you your room. It's right next to mine. Marcus let himself be pulled up the stairs. Richard watched them go, his heart full in a way it hadn't been since Elizabeth died, but his moment of peace was shattered when Martha emerged from the kitchen. Mr. Hartwell, we need to talk. Richard's expression hardened. You shouldn't be here, Martha. I know, but I need to explain. Please, just give me 5 minutes." Against his better judgment, Richard nodded and followed her into his study. Martha wrung her hands, her usual composure cracked. "I didn't try to hurt Lily. You have to believe me. I love that child." "Then explain the cameras, explain the unlocked door." Martha looked at the floor. "I can't, but I swear on everything holy, I never wanted Lily to be hurt. I would never hurt her." "Then what were you doing? What was the plan?" Martha's jaw trembled. "I can't say. I'm sorry, Mr. Hartwell. I'm so sorry for everything. But I can't tell you the truth." "Get out," Richard said coldly. "Get out of my house, and don't come back." Martha nodded, tears streaming down her face. As she reached the door, she turned back one more time. That boy, that homeless boy. He ruined everything. But maybe that's for the best. She left, and Richard was alone with his confusion and growing dread. What had Martha been planning? And more importantly, was it really over? The next 3 months were the happiest of Marcus's life. He had his own room, his own bed, his own clothes that actually fit. He went to a private school where the teachers were kind, and the other kids were curious about him rather than cruel. He ate 3 meals a day. He took hot showers. He read books from Richard's extensive library. He played video games with Lily, and watched movies on Friday nights with his new family. He was healing, not just his body from the frostbite and hypothermia, but his spirit from years of trauma and loneliness. Richard was patient with him, understanding when Marcus woke up screaming from nightmares, or when he hoarded food in his room because he was afraid it would run out, or when he flinched at sudden movements. Lily adored him, following him everywhere, asking him endless questions, making him play princess with her. Marcus didn't mind. He'd never had a sibling before, and Lily's joy was infectious. But in the back of his mind, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It started small, little things that didn't quite add up. Like the way Martha's daughter, Rebecca, who worked as Richard's personal assistant at the company, would watch him with calculating eyes when she came to the house. Like the way Richard seemed distracted lately, worried about something he wouldn't discuss. Like the security system that kept having minor glitches that Richard was constantly having to fix. Marcus didn't say anything at first. He was afraid of causing trouble, afraid of being sent back to the streets. But he kept his eyes open and his instincts sharp. Those instincts had kept him alive on the streets. They wouldn't fail him now. One night, Marcus couldn't sleep. It was about 1 a.m., and he wandered down to the kitchen for some water. The house was dark and quiet. As he passed by the living room, he heard voices, low, urgent voices. Marcus froze. Through the crack in the door, he could see Rebecca talking on her phone. She was alone in the room, speaking quietly but intensely. "Mom, you need to be patient. Richard still hasn't fully moved on from Elizabeth. But if something else happened to Lily, if this time there was no lucky save, then he'd be completely broken. And when people are broken, they need someone strong to hold them together. That's when you make your move." Marcus's blood ran cold. Rebecca was talking to Martha, and they were planning something to do with Lily. He backed away silently, his heart pounding so hard he thought it would burst from his chest. He retreated to his room and sat on his bed, trembling. They were going to hurt Lily again, and this time, they'd make sure no one could save her. Marcus grabbed a notebook from his desk, and wrote down everything he'd heard, word for word. He dated it, and signed it. Then he hid it under his mattress. He couldn't tell Richard yet, not without proof, not without something concrete. The Lonsdales were powerful too, connected. Martha had worked for Richard for 12 years, Rebecca was his trusted assistant. But Marcus, he was just a homeless kid who'd been taken in 2 months ago. Who would believe him? No, he needed evidence, real evidence. So Marcus started watching. Every morning when Rebecca came by to drop off documents for Richard, Marcus made excuses to be nearby. Every time she was alone with Lily, he found a reason to interrupt. He became Lily's shadow, always there, always watching, always protecting. Richard noticed, "Marcus, is everything okay? You seem tense." "I'm fine, just making sure Lily's safe." "She is safe. We have new security, the best in the city. Nothing's going to happen to her." But Marcus knew better. The worst threats don't come from outside. They come from the people you trust. It happened on a Thursday morning, 3.5 months after Marcus had come to live with the Hartwells. Rebecca arrived early with breakfast pastries and Lily's favorite chocolate milk from a fancy cafe downtown. She did this sometimes, brought treats for Lily. Everyone thought it was sweet, the way Rebecca doted on the little girl. But Marcus saw the way Rebecca glanced around before going to the kitchen, saw the way she closed the door behind her, saw the way she stood in there just a little too long before coming back out. "Here you go, sweetie," Rebecca said, handing Lily the cup. "Drink up, it's fresh." Lily reached for it with both hands, but Marcus was faster. "Wait," he said, stepping between them. "Let me check if it's too hot." Rebecca's smile didn't reach her eyes. "It's cold, Marcus. It's chocolate milk. I just want to make sure." Marcus took the cup from Lily's hands. "You know how she is about temperatures." Lily pouted. "Marcus, I'm not a baby. I can drink my own milk." "I know. Just humor me." Marcus carried the cup to the kitchen. His hands were shaking. Rebecca followed him, her expression unreadable. "What are you doing?" she asked quietly. Marcus looked at her directly. "What did you put in it?" "Excuse me, I heard you talking to your mother 3 weeks ago, about how if something happened to Lily, Richard would be broken. About how that's when you'd make your move." Rebecca's face went white, then red. I'm keeping this cup," Marcus interrupted. "I'm going to have it tested, and if there's anything in it that shouldn't be there, I'm going to the police." Rebecca's laugh was bitter and cold. "You think anyone will believe a homeless street rat over me? I've worked for Richard for 3 years. My mother served this family for 12 years. You've been here for 3 months. Who do you think they'll trust?" "Richard will," Marcus said with more confidence than he felt. "Because he knows I would never lie to hurt Lily. Can you say the same?" They stared at each other for a long tense moment. Then Rebecca's expression shifted to something almost pitying. "You have no idea what you're interfering with. My mother gave everything to this family, everything, and they discarded her like trash because of you. We deserve better. My mother deserves better." "Not at Lily's expense," Marcus said firmly. Rebecca leaned in close, her voice a whisper. "That little girl has everything: money, comfort, a father who loves her. She doesn't need it all. She wouldn't even miss it if it was gone. But my mother has nothing now. You took that from her. Your mother tried to kill a child. That's not on me. We could have been a family. Richard, my mother, Lily and me, a real family, but you ruined it. That's not a family. That's a lie built on murder." Rebecca straightened up, smoothing her blazer. "Give me the milk back, Marcus, or I'll tell Richard you're having paranoid delusions, that you attacked me and tried to pour milk on me, that you're dangerous." Marcus held the cup tighter. "No, fine." Rebecca turned and walked toward the living room, where Richard was reading the morning paper. "Richard, we have a problem." Marcus followed her, the cup clutched in both hands. "What's wrong?" Richard looked up, concerned. Rebecca's voice was shaking, her eyes filling with tears. "Richard, I'm so sorry. I think Marcus is having some kind of episode. He took Lily's milk, and he's accusing me of trying to poison her. He won't give it back, and he's saying terrible things about my mother, and that's not true." Marcus interrupted, his voice steady despite his fear. "I heard her on the phone 3 weeks ago talking to Martha. They're planning to hurt Lily again." Richard stood up slowly. He looked between Rebecca and Marcus, confusion and concern warring on his face. "Marcus, what are you talking about?" "Mr. Hartwell," Rebecca started, but Marcus cut her off. "I heard her say that if something happened to Lily again, you'd be broken, and that's when they'd make their move. And this morning, she brought this milk, and she was in the kitchen alone with it for too long, and I saw her glance around like she was doing something wrong, and Richard, he's not well," Rebecca said gently. "The trauma he experienced, living on the streets, it's manifesting as paranoia. This is common with PTSD. We should get him help." "Test the milk," Marcus said loudly. "Just test it. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize, but if I'm right," he looked at Richard, "please, just trust me one more time." Richard studied Marcus's face for a long moment. Marcus could see the doubt there, the confusion. He was asking a lot, asking Richard to believe him over someone who'd been loyal for years. But then Richard's expression shifted. He remembered the security cameras that had been disabled, the unlocked door. Marcus' cryptic words about Marcus ruining everything. "Give me the cup, Marcus." Marcus handed it over carefully. Richard looked at Rebecca. "I'm going to have this tested. If Marcus is wrong, we'll address his behavior. But if he's right," his voice hardened, "you need to start explaining things right now." Rebecca's composure cracked. "You're really going to believe him over me? After everything my mother and I have done for you? What exactly have you done for me, Rebecca?" She laughed, a harsh broken sound. "We've been waiting. Patiently waiting. My mother raised Lily like her own daughter. I stood by your side through every crisis at the company. We were building something, Richard, a future, a real family to replace the one you lost. By killing my daughter," Richard's voice was ice. "By making room for the family you needed. Elizabeth is gone, Lily is just a reminder of your pain. But with me and my mother you could have started fresh. We could have given you new children. A new life. Everything could have been perfect." The room went dead silent. Lily had appeared at the top of the stairs, her face pale, not fully understanding but knowing something terrible was happening. Richard's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police, and Dr. Chen. She can test this immediately." "Richard, wait." Rebecca tried to grab his arm, but he pulled away. "Don't touch me. Don't ever touch my family again." Rebecca's face twisted with rage. She turned to Marcus. "This is your fault. All of this. If you had just died that night like you were supposed to, everything would have worked out." Marcus felt like he'd been punched. "Like I was supposed to." Rebecca's laugh was manic now. "You think it was random that Lily ended up outside that night? My mother spent months planning it. She made sure Lily would go out, made sure the cameras wouldn't record, made sure the door would lock. It should have been perfect. But then you showed up, you little parasite, and ruined everything. You admit it," Richard said, his phone already recording. "You and Martha conspired to murder my daughter." Rebecca's face went white as she realized what she'd done. "I know I didn't mean." "Get out," Richard said. "Get out now, before the police get here." But Rebecca didn't move. She was staring at the floor, tears streaming down her face. "We just wanted to be part of something. Is that so wrong? My mother cleaned your toilets for 12 years. I worked 70-hour weeks. We gave everything to this family. Everything. And for what? You don't get to murder children because you feel unappreciated," Richard said coldly. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Dr. Chen came personally to collect the milk sample. The house that had been so peaceful that morning was suddenly filled with uniforms and questions and procedures. Marcus sat on the stairs with Lily, his arm around her shoulders as she cried quietly. He watched as Rebecca was led away in handcuffs, still crying, still trying to explain that she'd only wanted what was best. Detective Miller approached them. "Son, you may have just saved this little girl's life." Again, Marcus shook his head. "I just paid attention, that's all. That's more than most people do." The lab results came back 3 hours later. The chocolate milk contained diazepam, a sedative, in doses high enough to cause respiratory failure in a child of Lily's size. With that evidence and Rebecca's recorded confession, the police moved fast. They arrested Martha that same afternoon. The interrogation room was small and cold. Martha sat across from Detective Miller, her lawyer beside her. She'd aged 10 years in the months since she'd left the Hartwell house. Her hair was grayer, her face lined with stress. "Miss Lonsdale, your daughter has confessed to attempting to poison Lily Hartwell. She's also stated that you orchestrated the incident 3 months ago where Lily was locked outside in sub-zero temperatures. Do you have anything to say?" Martha was quiet for a long time. Then quietly, "I want to make a statement." Her lawyer tried to stop her but Martha waved him off. "I did it, all of it. Not Rebecca, that was me. She didn't know about the milk. I put it in her bag when she wasn't looking. She's innocent. She confessed, Miss Lonsdale. She's protecting me, but I won't let her go down for my mistakes." Martha looked directly at the camera. "Richard, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I never wanted it to end like this." Detective Miller leaned forward. "Why would you try to kill that little girl?" Martha's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want to kill her. I wanted her to sleep, forever, peacefully." no pain. Just like Elizabeth. The room went dead silent. What do you mean, like Elizabeth? Miller asked carefully. Martha closed her eyes. 3 years ago, Elizabeth Hartwell died in a car accident. Her brakes failed on a winding mountain road. Everyone assumed it was mechanical failure. It wasn't. No, I had a friend who knew about cars. He helped me adjust things. It wasn't supposed to be violent, just a gentle accident. Elizabeth would fall asleep at the wheel and drift off the road. Clean, simple. Detective Miller felt sick. Why? Because Rebecca loved Richard. She'd been in love with him since the day she started working for him. But he was married, devoted to Elizabeth. He would never have looked at Rebecca while Elizabeth was alive. So I removed the obstacle. You murdered her. I freed him. Elizabeth was holding Richard back. She didn't care about the company, about his success. She just wanted him home for dinner and family vacations. She was making him soft. Rebecca understood his ambitions. Rebecca would have been the perfect partner for him. But it didn't work out that way. Martha's face hardened. No, Richard mourned for 2 years, wouldn't look at anyone, wouldn't consider moving on. And then that little girl Lily, she became his whole world. As long as she was there, he'd never move forward, never see Rebecca as anything but his assistant. So you tried to kill her too. I tried to set her free, both of them. Lily would have died peacefully in her sleep, no pain. And Richard would have finally been broken enough to need someone. Rebecca would have comforted him. In time he would have loved her. We would have been a real family. That's not love, Miss Lonsdale. That's obsession. Martha smiled sadly. Maybe. But I did it for my daughter. Everything I did was for Rebecca. I just wanted her to be happy, to have the life she deserved. At the cost of 2 innocent lives, they wouldn't have felt anything. That's more mercy than most people get. The interview ended shortly after. Martha was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of murder, and multiple counts of conspiracy and tampering with evidence. Rebecca, despite her mother's confession, was also charged as an accomplice in the attempted poisoning of Lily. At Martha's trial 2 months later, she showed no remorse. When asked if she regretted her actions, she said simply, I regret failing. I regret that my daughter won't have the life I tried to build for her. But I don't regret trying. A mother's love is worth any price. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without parole. Rebecca, who had cooperated fully with prosecutors and shown genuine remorse, received 25 years with possibility of parole after 15. At her sentencing, Rebecca asked to make a statement. She looked up at the gallery, where Richard, Marcus and Lily sat. I want you to know that I never wanted any of this. I didn't know what my mother had done to Elizabeth. I didn't know about her plan with Lily that night. And when I put the medicine in the milk, I honestly thought I was just helping her sleep better. My mother told me Lily had insomnia. Tears streamed down her face. But that's no excuse. I should have asked questions. I should have been smarter. I should have seen what my mother was becoming. She focused on Marcus. You saved Lily twice. You saw what I couldn't see, what I didn't want to see. You're a better person than I'll ever be. Take care of them. They need someone like you. Then she was led away, and the Hartwells finally went home. The months after the trial were difficult. Lily had nightmares about Martha coming back, about being poisoned, about the cold night. Richard increased security and made sure Lily started therapy with a child psychologist. Marcus struggled too. He felt guilty for not speaking up sooner, for waiting 3 weeks between hearing Rebecca's conversation and acting on it. What if I'd been wrong? He said to Richard one night. What if I'd gotten Rebecca in trouble for nothing? But you weren't wrong, Richard said. Your instincts were right. You protected Lily. But what if Marcus? Richard put a hand on his shoulder. You can't torture yourself with what ifs. You did the right thing at the right time. That's all anyone can ask. Slowly, carefully, the family healed. Lily started smiling again. She went back to school, made new friends, played soccer. She still had bad days, but they got fewer and further apart. Marcus thrived. He excelled in school, made the honor roll, joined the chess club. He was still quiet, still watchful, but he was learning to relax, learning to trust that this home was real and permanent. Richard started dating again, carefully, slowly, nothing serious, but it was a sign that he was ready to move forward. And through it all they held together as a family. 6 months after the trial, Richard called Marcus and Lily into his study. "I have an announcement," he said, his face serious but his eyes warm. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about how close we came to losing everything. And I've decided to do something meaningful with our experience." "What do you mean?" Lily asked. "I'm starting a foundation, the Little Heart Foundation. It'll help homeless children, kids in abusive foster situations, kids who need a second chance." He looked at Marcus. "I want you to be the face of it, to tell your story, to show other kids that there's hope." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I don't know if I can." "You don't have to decide right now, but think about it. Your story has power, Marcus. The power to change lives, to give hope to kids who think they have none." "I'll think about it," Marcus promised. 3 months later, Marcus stood on a stage in front of 500 people at the foundation's launch event. His hands were shaking, his voice was quiet at first, but as he told his story, about his mother, about the streets, about the night he saved Lily, his confidence grew. "I know what it's like to feel worthless," he said, "to feel like the world has forgotten you exist. But I also know that one moment of kindness can change everything. One choice to be brave, to be good, even when it's hard, that can save a life. Maybe your own." The audience gave him a standing ovation. Lily was crying, and Richard's face was full of pride. In the first year, the Little Heart Foundation helped over 200 children find safe homes. They provided emergency shelters, therapy services, educational support, and family counseling. And Marcus, the homeless boy who'd risked everything to save a stranger, became a symbol of hope for children everywhere. Marcus Williams Hartwell stood in front of his classroom at Lincoln Park High School. He was 27 now, tall and lean, with kind eyes that missed nothing. He'd chosen to become a teacher rather than join Richard's company. He wanted to work with kids who reminded him of himself, kids from tough backgrounds, kids who needed someone to believe in them. Today he was teaching his English class about personal narratives. "I want you to write about a moment that changed your life," he said. "One specific moment where everything shifted." A girl named Maria raised her hand. "Mr. Hartwell, what if we haven't had a moment like that? What if our life has just been consistently bad?" Marcus smiled and sat on the edge of his desk. "I thought the same thing when I was your age, Maria. I was homeless, living on the streets, eating from dumpsters. I thought my life was over before it started." The class went silent, leaning in. They'd heard rumors about Mr. Hartwell's past, but he rarely talked about it in detail. "But then one night, the coldest night of the year, I heard someone crying. A little girl, locked outside in the freezing cold. I had a choice. I could keep walking, save myself, or I could try to help her, even though it might cost me everything." "What did you do?" Maria asked. "I gave her my only jacket. I held her all night in sub-zero temperatures. I almost died." He paused, "But I didn't. And that choice, that one moment of kindness, changed my entire life. It brought me to a family, to safety, to this career. It brought me to all of you." Another student spoke up. "So we should just be kind and hope it works out." "Not exactly," Marcus said. "Kindness doesn't guarantee a reward, but it does guarantee that you'll be the kind of person who can sleep at night, the kind of person who stays human even when the world is trying to make you cold." After class, Maria stayed behind. "Mr. Hartwell, that story you told, the little girl you saved, was that Lily Hartwell, the doctor?" Marcus smiled. "Yeah, that was my sister. She's amazing. She came to our community center last month and gave free health screenings." "She's pretty great," Marcus agreed. "We both learned that when you've been saved you spend the rest of your life trying to save others." That evening, Marcus drove to the Hartwell mansion for dinner. It had been 15 years since he'd first climbed over that gate, but coming home still filled him with warmth. Richard met him at the door, older now with gray hair, but still strong and sharp. "Marcus, good to see you, son." They embraced, and Marcus followed him inside, where Lily was setting the table. She was 22 now, in her final year of medical school, planning to specialize in pediatrics. "Big brother," she hugged him tight. "I've missed you. I saw you last week." Marcus laughed. "That's too long." They sat down to dinner together, the three of them, and talked about their days. Richard shared news from the company. Lily complained about her anatomy professor. Marcus told them about his students. It was ordinary. It was beautiful. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Richard built a fire, while Lily made hot chocolate. As they sat together, watching the flames, Lily said softly, "Do you ever think about that night? The night everything changed?" Marcus nodded. "All the time." "Do you regret it? Almost dying for someone you didn't know?" Marcus looked at his sister, then at his father, then back at the fire. "No, never. That night I learned what my mom meant when she said kindness is the one thing no one can steal from you. I learned that one good choice can echo forever." Richard raised his mug, "To good choices, and to the boy brave enough to make them." They clinked their mugs together, and drank. Later, as Marcus was leaving, he paused in the driveway, and looked up at the gate he'd climbed 15 years ago. It seemed smaller now, less imposing. He thought about Martha, still in prison, still insisting she'd done everything for love. He thought about Rebecca, who'd written him a letter last year apologizing again, saying she was working on her psychology degree in prison, hoping to help troubled kids when she got out. He thought about all the children the foundation had helped, all the lives that had been changed by that one frozen night. And he thought about his mother, Sarah Williams, who'd given him the greatest gift, a heart that refused to turn cold no matter how harsh the world became. "I kept my promise, Mom," he whispered to the stars. "I never lost my heart." In the window above, Lily watched him and smiled. She pulled out her phone and sent him a text. "Love you, big brother. Thanks for everything." Marcus read it, and sent back a single heart emoji. Then he got in his car, and drove home to his small apartment, content in the knowledge that he'd found his place in the world. Not because someone had given it to him, but because one cold night, he'd chosen kindness over survival, and that choice had saved them all. 25 years after that frozen February night, Marcus Williams Hartwell stood in the same hospital where Dr. Sarah Chen had once saved his life. But today he wasn't a patient, he was a visitor. He walked down the familiar corridors to the pediatric wing, where a bronze plaque hung on the wall. The Lily Hartwell Wing for Children in Crisis. His sister had built this, with her own money, her own vision, her own relentless compassion. Marcus found her in one of the patient rooms, sitting beside a small bed. In it was a boy, maybe 10 years old, thin and pale, with scared eyes that Marcus recognized immediately. "Hey," Lily said softly to the child, "this is my brother Marcus. He's got a story I think you should hear." The boy looked at Marcus suspiciously. "I don't want a story. I want to go home. Except I don't have a home, so I guess I just want to leave." Marcus sat down on the other side of the bed. "What's your name?" "James." "Well, James, when I was 12 years old, I didn't have a home either. I lived in subway stations and ate from trash cans. I thought I'd die on the streets." James's eyes flickered with interest despite himself. "What happened?" "I made a choice. On the coldest night of my life, I chose to help someone instead of just helping myself. And that choice changed everything." He told James the story, not the sanitized version he told reporters, but the real one. The fear, the cold, the moment when he thought he was going to die, the way his fingers went numb, the way his vision blurred, the way he'd said goodbye to his mother's memory. When he finished, James was crying. "But you were brave." "I'm not brave." Lily reached over and took the boy's hand. "Brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are scared." "James," Marcus said gently, "I talked to the social worker, and if you want, my family has a program. We help kids like you find good homes. Real homes, with people who will love you and keep you safe." "Why would you do that?" Marcus smiled. "Because someone did it for me once, and now it's my turn to pass it forward." 6 months later, James was placed with a wonderful foster family who would eventually adopt him. He was one of thousands the Little Heart Foundation had helped over the decades. That evening, Marcus returned to the Hartwell mansion for their monthly family dinner. Richard was 82 now, moving slower but still sharp as ever. Lily brought her husband David and their 2 children, Sarah, named after Marcus's mother, and Marcus Jr. As they sat around the table, little Sarah asked, "Uncle Marcus, tell us the story again, about the cold night." Marcus laughed. "You've heard it 100 times,
"But it's the best story," Sarah insisted. So Marcus told it again. And as he spoke he looked around at the faces of his family, the family he'd earned through one act of impossible courage. Richard caught his eye and nodded, a gesture that said everything. "I'm proud of you. You've done well. Your mother would be proud too." Later, as the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Marcus stood alone in the foyer, looking at a framed photograph on the wall. It showed him and Lily from 15 years ago, at the foundation's launch event. "You okay?" Lily appeared beside him. "Yeah, just thinking about how lucky we are." "Luck had nothing to do with it," Lily said firmly. "You made a choice, and that choice created all of this." She gestured around them. "The foundation, the kids we've saved, this family, all of it came from your heart." Marcus put his arm around his sister. "Our hearts. You've saved more lives than I ever did, only because you showed me how." They stood there together, two people who'd been saved by kindness, who'd spent their lives trying to pass that gift forward. Outside, snow began to fall gently, just like it had 25 years ago. But this time, everyone was safe and warm inside. Marcus thought of his mother's words one last time. "Kindness is the one thing no one can steal from you." She was right. And that kindness had become a legacy that would outlive them all. In the flickering firelight, Marcus smiled. He was home. He was loved, and he had kept his promise. The story of Marcus and Lily spread far beyond Chicago. It became a reminder that heroism isn't about having power or wealth or perfect circumstances. It's about seeing someone who needs help, and deciding, in that moment, that their life matters more than your comfort. It's about giving your last bit of warmth to a stranger and trusting that somehow, someway, it will be enough. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that one act of kindness doesn't just save one life, it saves everyone involved.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.